It's 3 in the morning. Your dog has a brand new, perfectly comfortable bed sitting untouched in the house. And yes, here they are, pawing at your mattress, wedging themselves against your leg, occupying roughly 80% of the available mattress, and generously leaving you the margin. Most owners chalk it up to body heat or habit, or maybe a slightly needy personality. But what behavioral neuroscience has an entirely different story. What your dog is actually doing, night after night, is one of the most layered demonstrations of loyalty, emotional bonding, and evolutionary history that two species have ever shared, and the most owners have never once considered it. Take the body heat explanation first, because on the surface it seems perfectly logical. Dogs feel the cold. You radiate heat. End of story, right? Except there's a problem. Your dog has access to sun-warmed patches of floor, heating vents, the sofa, and almost certainly a mountain of your unwashed clothes on the floor. If temperature were the only factor, they have lots of choice. So what keeps drawing them back to you specifically? Because sleep is the single most exposed state any living creature can find itself in. Every hardwired instinct in your dog's nervous system, shaped by countless generations of surviving in a world full of predators, pushes them to find somewhere concealed and protected the moment they close their eyes. And yet they stroll right past every shadowy alcove and tucked away corner in your house and press themselves up against a creature 20 times their weight that has nothing to do with staying warm. Scientists at Loránd University in Budapest took the same diagnostic framework developmental psychologists use with newborns, the Ainsworth Strange Situation Protocol, and redesigned it to work with dogs. What they found: dogs build emotional connections with their owners that operate in essentially the same way as the bond a baby forms with its primary caregiver. The same drive to stay close, the same anxiety when left alone, the same settling when reunited. Around 61% of the dogs in the study were identified as securely bonded, a figure indistinguishable from what you'd find in a sample of human children. Every time your dog curls up next to you at night, they are enacting the most basic principle in all of attachment psychology, moving toward their anchor of safety at the precise moment they are most exposed. It isn't neediness, it's a declaration. You are the most secure thing in their entire world. But this is the point where things become genuinely remarkable, because what's happening isn't only emotional, it's biochemical. In 2015, a group of scientists at Asabu University in Japan released findings in the journal Science, one of the most rigorously peer-reviewed publications in the world. Their team tracked oxytocin concentrations in 30 pairs of dogs and their owners while the two interacted. Oxytocin, in case the name is unfamiliar, is the hormone your brain produces in moments of deep connection, the same chemical that surges through a parent's system the first time they hold their child. And what emerged from the data was extraordinary. When a dog looks into their owner's eyes and the owner holds that gaze in return, both individuals show a spike in oxytocin at the same moment, bridging two entirely different species. The dog's levels climb, the owner's levels climb, which drives the dog to keep looking, which triggers another wave of the hormone, which deepens the owner's sense of connection, which pulls their eyes back to the dog. It's a cycle, a mutually amplifying biochemical cycle that no other animal species on the planet has developed with humans. When scientists ran the same experiment with hand-raised wolves, nothing happened. This isn't a trait shared by all social mammals. It developed exclusively in the relationship between dogs and people, shaped by millennia of shared existence. And touch makes it even more powerful. Studies have shown that as little as 10 minutes of stroking your dog is enough to produce a statistically significant reduction in cortisol, the primary stress hormone, in both. Now consider what 8 hours of sustained physical contact throughout the night might be doing to both your systems. Here's a question that rarely comes up. How far back does the habit of dogs and humans sharing a sleeping space actually go? The answer, it turns out, is essentially from the very start. Dogs are the only domesticated species whose partnership with humans predates farming, settled civilization, and even written language. Somewhere around 15,000 years back, certain wolves started edging toward human encampments, pulled in by discarded food, firelight, and shelter. The most approachable individuals, the ones who held their ground rather than bolting. Those animals thrived. They reproduced and passed those characteristics forward. Enough generations down the line, they were no longer wolves. In Germany, an excavation uncovered a gravesite estimated at 14,000 years old. Inside were 2 human skeletons, and alongside them, 2 dogs. But the finding that reframes the whole picture is this. One of those dogs had lived through a severe case of canine distemper, a disease that is fatal, within roughly 3 weeks without hands-on treatment, and had survived it for more than 5. A person had cared for that animal through its sickness 14 millennia before modern veterinary medicine. These were not tools or guard animals. They were members of the family, and none of that happened by chance. Geneticists have identified specific gene variants in domestic dogs located on chromosome 6 that are directly linked to heightened sociability and an intrinsic drive to seek out human company. Wolves carry no such variance. At the level of their DNA, dogs were designed to orient toward us, to rest near us, to form bonds with us. When your dog steps onto your mattress, they're not exhibiting a quirk. They're expressing a behavior that has been reinforced by natural selection for 15,000 years. There's a piece of research I need to walk you through, one that tends to get overlooked because the conclusion initially seems to contradict itself. A team at the Mayo Clinic tracked the sleep patterns of 40 adult participants and their dogs across a full week using medical quality monitoring devices on both human and animal. The data was clear. Dogs objectively interfered with human sleep, shifting positions, rolling over, the unpredictable 4 a.m. full body shake that rattles the entire mattress. By every clinical measure, the sleep was worse, and yet the overwhelming majority of participants described feeling calmer, safer, and more refreshed on the nights their dog was present. How does that add up? A scientist at Canisius College collected responses from close to 1,000 women and found that dogs consistently scored better than human partners when it came to how restful the bed sharing experience felt, more reassuring, more predictable. Her subsequent research deployed movement sensors to get to the bottom of it. The owners were, in fact, briefly rousing each time the dog shifted, but by morning, they had no recollection of it whatsoever. The actual disturbances were happening, but the subjective sense of security outweighed them completely. And here's where the implications become genuinely profound, because it appears that the emotional benefit of sharing sleep with a creature your nervous system reads as safe, a warm, living presence, breathing steadily beside you, may matter more to genuine restoration than a perfectly dark, perfectly quiet room. For the vast majority of human history, we sleeping in groups. The private, single-occupant bedroom is a very recent invention. Perhaps your dog isn't degrading your sleep at all. Perhaps they're giving back something older than any wellness routine. A 2024 study from the University of Jyväskylä in Finland tracked heart rate variability in 30 bonded dog owner pairs across half a dozen distinct scenarios. Heart rate variability, HRV, is considered one of the most reliable indicators of how your body's involuntary regulatory systems are operating. A high HRV reading signals that you're calm and balanced. A low HRV reading indicates your system is in a state of stress arousal, and the findings were striking. Across all 6 conditions, the HRV readings of the dogs and their owners tracked together. Their physiological states were in sync. When the person was calm, so was the dog. When the person's stress rose, the dog's internal state followed, and this physiological mirroring peaked during periods of rest. The researchers ran the same protocol with dogs paired alongside strangers. There was no alignment whatsoever. The effect is exclusive to relationships built on genuine familiarity and trust. What this reveals is that sharing sleep with your dog is more than emotional reassurance. It is a physiological phenomenon. 2 distinct nervous systems belonging to 2 entirely different species, stabilizing one another across the entire night. There's one final point I want to make, and it may be the most consequential thing in this entire piece. If your dog has shared your bed consistently for months or even years and suddenly stops, take notice. Dogs are profoundly routine-driven animals. When a behavior that has been rock solid for years vanishes abruptly, something has caused it. Sometimes the trigger is situational, a new animal in the home, an unfamiliar person moving in, a change in your daily routine. Dogs pick up on shifts in their environment with remarkable precision. What registers as negligible to you can feel like a complete disruption to them, but other times the cause is medical. Research in veterinary medicine has established that a change in where a dog chooses to sleep is among the first behavioral indicators of physical pain, often surfacing well before any visible signs, like a limp or reluctance to move. A dog that no longer leaps onto the mattress may not have developed a sudden preference for the floor. They may be in pain. In senior dogs in particular, fragmented or altered sleep is the defining early sign of canine cognitive dysfunction, a condition analogous to dementia in humans. Estimates suggest it affects somewhere around a third of dogs who have passed their 8th year, so when the bedtime pattern shifts, treat it as information. Your dog has no words. Every message they have for you is delivered through action. So the next time you find yourself awake at some ungodly hour, folded into a corner of your own bed with a large, deeply asleep animal taking up the rest of it, hold on to what's really going on. Your dog picked you, not the armchair, not the rug, not the perfectly heated spot beneath the south-facing window. You, because 15 millennia of shared evolution, a biochemical feedback loop that exists nowhere else in the animal kingdom, and an emotional attachment architecture modeled on the parent-infant bond, all converge on a single conclusion. Being next to you as they sleep is the most protected place their world contains, and the evidence, taken seriously, suggests the feeling may be entirely mutual. If this has shifted how you think about your dog, consider following this channel and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Tell me where your dog ends up tonight, and if you've ever wondered why your dog fixes you with that gaze that feels like it goes straight through you. The next video breaks down exactly what's happening, and the research is stranger than most people would guess.